You're listening to Parasearch UK Radio. News, views and reviews from the world of the paranormal from across the UK and beyond. Find us on Facebook, Twitter and the World Wide Web. Parasearch UK Radio.
The views and opinions expressed by presenters and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Parasearch UK Radio or its affiliates and sponsors. Listener discretion is advised. You're listening to Kerry Greenaway and Mark Manley on the Dark Mirror Paranormal Show, only on Parasearch UK Radio.
Good evening and welcome to the Dark Mirror Paranormal Show. I'm Kerry Greenaway and I'm joined by my lovely co-host Mark Manley. Good evening, Mark.
Good evening, I'm the gorgeous one. Hello, Kerry.
You cheeky monkey.
You right?
Yeah, I'm absolutely fine, thank you.
Everybody out there in Radio Land, all right at the back? All right at the back? Nobody's going to remember.
Oh, you got to love our Mark. What are we talking about tonight, Mark?
We are going to talk about time travel and all the bizarre things that have been going down, especially the last century or two, or should I say, especially since the advent of the camera.
Wow.
And the camcorder and recorded history.
We've got a few crazies, haven't we?
We have got some absolutely bat-poo crazy things and some things out there that may have something to do with aliens!
No, not aliens.
Yes, there is one to do with aliens.
I think I put that right at the end. Just to keep you off the alien topic, I like to put it right at the end. So we may or may not get time to discuss the alien factor.
I'm sure I can bring it round to something to do. I'm sure I can.
I'm sure you will. Right, now, so let's start tackling this subject, because as always, we like to bring you a wide and varied crazies. That's what we like to do. We like to bring some wide and crazies, but we're going to talk a little bit more, sciencey to start with, aren't we? We're going to try and sound intelligent.
We're going to try and sound intelligent. I don't know if we're going to be able to pass it off, but just don't tell them we're not, all right?
Are you sure? Do you think?
I reckon if we use long words, we'll be able to get away with it.
Okay, long words. Lots and lots of long words then, Mark. Okay, get ready for this one. Yeah? So anyway, H.G. Wells wrote a book back in 1895 called The Time Machine. That didn't he?
Yeah.
And ever since then, time travel
What it was about?
A bloke that got into a machine and went back in time.
It's about a time machine, yeah. Carry on.
Okay, that's fine. I think we covered that quite nicely. Now, this concept has fired the human imagination ever since. And, can we do it? Can we actually time travel, Mark?
Mathematically, it has been proved that you can. And if I remember rightly, the guys at CERN, before they built the huge collider, I think they did an experiment where they sent an atom back. I think it was back in time. It was either backwards or forward, but they did send an atom or two atoms or something minuscule backwards or forward in time. And the way they reckon time works, because originally Newton thought that time worked in an arrow, was linear. But modern day theory reckons that time, how can I put it? There's lots of, like the Star Trek theory, there's lots of little wormholes that connects different parts of time. It goes in like a massive loop, and you can go in different time tunnels to go to different bits and different bobs. It's just mathematically getting the right bits and bobs together to be able to do that. It has been proven mathematically, but it's because it's all quantum physics. It's building a time machine that's big enough to encompass a human being, and B is actually going to put that human being back in time in the same shape that he went out in.
Yeah, because at wormholes, I've heard that the gravitational and pressures that are black holes, sorry, not wormholes, black holes, that the gravitational and the pressures that are involved would actually basically spaghettify people.
Yeah, you'd look like a pancake.
So it wouldn't be really a very good go at it, really.
I think that wormholes are different to black holes. I mean, black holes, you fall in, nobody hears from you again, a bit like my ex. Or you can have a wormhole where you can. It's connected to one spot, and the end is connected to another spot, and it doesn't move from those spots, so it'd be stable.
Interesting. Well, there's been various scientists that have had different theories. You touched on Newton's theory of time. So what did Einstein think? Do we know what Einstein thought? We love a bit of Einstein on this show.
He said, the timeline is like the river, which meandered around the stars mid-galaxies, speeding up and slowing down as it passed around massive bodies. 1 second on the Earth was not 1 second on Mars. No, bring me my tea.
Very good. I'm really impressed with your impression. I think you've missed a career choice.
That was Lindsay. Wasn't me, that was Lindsay.
Oh, my goodness. I wasn't expecting that. Let's put it that way. Okay, well, now he had a bit of a wrangle with a guy called Kurt Gödel. I probably haven't said that right. Who was probably the greatest mathematical logician of the past 500 years, who found a new solution to Einstein's own equations, which allowed for time travel. The river of time now had whirlpools in which, I have to read this because I don't understand it, in which time...
Whirlpools are those wormholes I was talking about. That's what the whirlpool is. Okay?
Is this what he's talking about with whirlpools?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. In which time could wrap itself into a circle, and Gödel's solution was quite ingenious. It postulated a universe filled with a rotating fluid, and anyone walking along the direction of the rotation would find themselves back at the starting point, but backwards in time.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like Einstein said, it flows like a river around all the planets, but it doesn't. It encompasses everything in the universe. But the whirlpools are these wormholes at various spots. And if you can, one thing that they need to do, if we had spacecraft that could go out there and map these wormholes, and then we'd be halfway there to doing the time travel machine.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, there's so many different theories out there, isn't there? And the greatest mathematicians across time, really, since it's been a thing, has looked at this, haven't they?
Yeah. Well, it's like Einstein theorizes that the universe doesn't rotate, it expands. But if I remember rightly, the universe is actually saddle-shaped. And we're right in the seat of the saddle, right in the crutch of things, so to speak. But... I'm sorry. We're talking science here.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm laughing. It's just the way you put things.
I'm terribly sorry, listeners. No,
honestly,
you behave.
We're in the saddle of
the
things.
universe
I love
is saddle-shaped. We are in the crutch of the whole thing. So if it's expanding, the crutch is getting bigger. Yeah. No?
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to go on to Roy. I can't handle Einstein. Right.
Oh, yeah. You're just racist against the German, yeah?
Okay. In 1963.
Dr.
Shh. I'm going to have to keep You're very excited tonight, Mark.
Had Pepsi, what do you expect?
Okay. In 1963, a guy called Roy Keir, who is a New Zealand mathematician, found a solution of Einstein's equations for a rotating black hole, which had bizarre properties. The black hole would not collapse to a point, as previously thought, but into a spinning ring of neutrons. The ring would be circulating so rapidly that centrifugal force would keep the ring from collapsing under gravity. The ring, in turn, acts like a looking glass of Alice. Anyone walking through the ring would not die, but could pass through the ring into an alternate universe.
Damn Holz!
since then, hundreds of other wormhole solutions have been found to Einstein's equations. These wormholes connect not only two regions of space, but also two regions of time as well. So in principle, they can be used as time machines. But these are all principles. We've never actually tried this. So I don't get how these people can theorize. Well, I suppose everything starts with a theory, doesn't it?
Well, it's like, do you remember last week when we talked about Yetis and aliens and all that sort of stuff? And I said about Terry Pratchett's book.
Yeah.
Where he talks about, it's a science fiction book he did, and I can't for the life of me remember the name of it, and yet I'm a Terry Pratchett fan, got all the books, but he talks about sliding between dimensions, and they make a little box, and basically that box enables you to find the soft spots. Remember when we talked about the elves and how they can step backwards and forwards in our reality?
Yeah.
Same sort of thing, going from one dimension to another, because it's just different reality, and you find the soft spots and slide to the left or slide to the right.
That's a song.
Actually, wasn't there a film?
Sliding Doors.
Slide, yeah.
The film was Sliding Doors, wasn't it? If you take,
and Fight Club.
Oh, I haven't seen Fight Club. So anyway, that's the science. We covered the science quite quickly there. You know it is, guys. We glossed the science because it was all a bit above our heads. We were like, oh, okay, whatever. But we thought we'd mention, because it has been used, is being looked at in the scientific realm quite extensively, and there are various theories out there. And even our very own Stephen Hawking once opposed the idea of time travel. And he claimed he had empirical evidence against it. I love that. Empirical evidence. Not just evidence, but empirical evidence. And if time travel existed, he said, then we would have been visited by tourists from the future. Since we don't see any tourists from the future, therefore time travel is not possible. And because of the enormous amount of work done by theoretical physicists within the last 5 years or so, Hawkins has since changed his mind and now believes that time travel is possible, although not necessarily practical. You can't argue with Stephen Hawking.
No, because it takes him ages to type it in there to be able to argue back, so it's just pointless. Right.
That was nasty.
Oh, it's true.
Anyway, we are live. Don't forget, guys.
I know, but he's a fascinating guy, but I don't like time travel. But you explain some of these photos we've been looking at, some of these pictures.
Yeah,
Charlie Chaplin's set.
I know, but we're not at that point yet. We're going to talk about something else first.
Well, we were, because I invented a time travel machine, and I've already flipped forward, talked about that, and now I've just come back again.
Oh! Is it a DeLorean?
So you're not catching up.
Have you got the DeLorean?
I have, actually. It's a Renault, but hey, close enough.
See, that is the problem. But isn't that part of the problem with time travel? It's so many paradoxes that you could create if you went back in time. I mean, I know we've spoken about that film. I can't even remember the name of it now. Marty McFly guy. Why do I always go blank when we're doing a show?
Because you're faced with the loveliness that is me, and you just go all of a quiver.
Well, this is true. What was the film?
Back to the Future.
That's it, Back to the Future. It's filled with paradoxes, isn't it? If you change something in your past, does that then mean that it changes the entire future? You know, it's that concept, isn't it? I don't think time travel would be a particularly good idea.
The only way you could do it would be if you had very, very, very strict things, and you could even go back in time. A fly could be annoying you. You could swat a fly in wherever, and it turns out that was a taxi fly who was supposed to have bitten somebody, given them taxi, and they died. But because you spotted that fly, they didn't, and it caused something else. So you've got to be very, very, very careful. Yeah.
So that's probably why it's not filled with, or we're not filled with tourists from the past or various events. I mean, you know, now we're going to talk about an experiment that is alleged, and I'm going to emphasise. Oh my goodness.
Have you been on the hemp again? I warned you about that.
We emphasise the alleged. This is pure conspiracy theory. We do love a conspiracy theory, don't we? It is pure conspiracy theory, Mark. We're going to log heads on this one because it is pure conspiracy theory. This is bunkum. My favourite word, bunkum.
I've read some reports that it has been noted but hushed up. I'm not one for this conspiracy theory thing myself, but it was the fact that some of the regular sailors, there was only a couple that managed to. Well, there was quite a few that survived, but they went bat poo crazy. But one of them wrote some memoirs and stuff. Whether he was trying to make money, I don't know. But it's certainly food for thought.
What we are talking about is something called the Philadelphia experiment. Now, this was an actual naval military experiment that was supposedly carried out around the 28th of October. I love the way it's so precise. 28th of October in 1943. But the nature of the research being undertaken is subject to a whole lot of hearsay and rumour. So fill me in a little bit about this Philadelphia experiment.
Want me to fill you in live on air?
Can we just do it in normal voices, though? That would be good.
Basically, USS Eldridge, they used, if I care to remember, wasn't it Nikola Tesla's universal field? They tried to use that as a form of camouflage. Basically, lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of electricity building a field that surrounded the ship to try and camouflage it against radar.
Mm-hmm.
It was also referred to as Project Rainbow. And as I say, they tried to render the ship invisible from enemy radar. But the process may actually have sent the entire ship and its crew back in time for 10 seconds. Or longer, depending what reports you look at. As you say yourself, the reports are rather hazy, and in the intervening years, the Navy claims no such experiment ever occurred. But to be honest, most governments and most military, if some sort of hush-hush experiment's gone on where there's been sightings and stuff, they're going to go, oh no, pish-posh, no, mass hallucination. You know? But
it does seem incredibly unlikely.
I
can understand the theory of the experiment, don't get me wrong, particularly in the time frame that it was in.
Nikola Tesla, he was an extremely clever man, and he was onto a lot of good things. And some of his patents were actually taken by the American government and locked away. So, because he was on about the universal power system, the grid system in the air, where you could just take power out. Instead of being locked into a national grid, it's something to do with ley lines. And I have no idea because I'm not Tesla, but it was to do with ley lines and universal power, and it was going to be like a map all around the Earth, and you could just log into your region and take the energy. But that's what they based this experiment on USS Eldridge on.
Okay. Now, as I say, the theory of this I can understand, particularly in the time frame that they were looking at in 1943, because obviously they were looking to go for magnetic invisibility, radar invisibility, optical invisibility, and rendering the ship immune to magnetic mines.
Actually, originally, this test was very, very first put into concept just for radar invisibility. Then they came up with the theory that, if using electricity, can we use it to repel, like magnets, the mines that you were talking about? Weren't actually using it as a visible thing. They just thought it would make it invisible to radar. Yeah.
So I can understand why they were trying various things, but whether or not they succeeded or whether or not they did this experiment, I don't know. But I can understand why there's a conspiracy theory sort of like popped up regarding maybe it's not as big as the theory or the conspiracy suggests, because what they actually did was they actually put a Tesla coil at either end of the ship.
Right.
And then they did something with that.
Shall I carry on? you carry on, love.
It's very technical. We get very technical on this show, have you noticed? They just did something with that. They powered it up, I suppose. And it was supposed to have made the ship disappear, didn't it?
Yeah, they put Tesla coil on each end, and it basically acted as electromagnetic generators. One was mounted forward, one was mounted aft, and all accounts state a series of magnetic generators called the Gausses. That's why it's called milligauss when we use the K2 meters.
Right.
We use, and when activated, the electromagnetic field would extend out from the ship to divert radar waves around the ship, making the Eldridge invisible to radar receivers. And that's what I was on about. They originally developed it purely for the to make it invisible to radar. And allegedly, when the actual test was put into motion, a number of unexpected and bizarre side effects occurred. As the electromagnetic field increased in strength, it began to extend as far as 100 yards out from the ship in all directions, forming a large sphere, as in like a shield, cloaking shield, whatever you want to call it. And when in this field, the ship, to people looking on, became fuzzy and indistinct, and a greenish haze formed around the vessel. So I'm thinking St. Elmo's fire, because that's greenish electromagnetic haze that forms on ships.
It sounded very Star Trekky.
Yeah, it does. It basically sounds like the what's that thing where they beam from one planet to another? The things. Yeah, things. Yeah, beaming technology. Yeah. Naughty beat me twice last night. That thing. Teleporters, thank you. Naughty beat me twice last night. And where were we? Right, yes, here we go. And yeah, the green haze formed around the vessel and it has obscured it from view. Eventually, the only visible object was the outline of the hull of the Eldritch, where it entered the water. So literally, you could just see the shape of the water where it formed around the ship. And then, to the amazement of the onlookers, the entire ship vanished from view. It was at this point that the true power of the electromagnetic field that had been created was revealed. The Eldritch had not only vanished from the view of the observers in Philadelphia, it vanished from Philadelphia altogether. The ship had been instantly transported several hundred miles from Philadelphia to Norfolk, Virginia. After a few minutes, the ship once again vanished from Norfolk and returned back to Philadelphia. To the Navy, the test had succeeded beyond their wildest dreams. Not only had they rendered the ship invisible to radar, but they made it optically visible as well, not to mention causing the vessel to teleport hundreds of miles in a matter of minutes. However, for the crew, it wasn't such a good thing at all. Tess had managed to render the entire ship out of phase, because you know everything vibrates at its own particular frequency, depending on what dimension or whatever you're in.
Yeah.
Just nod. Well, basically, the whole thing had gone completely out of phase. It vibrated too much, whatever, and when it popped back into existence, members of the crew, well, when it vanished, members of the crew were said to be able to walk through bulkheads, walk through walls, walk through stairs, everything like that. But when it came back to Philadelphia, those who were walking through the decks and the walls and everything going, oh, this is fun, were fused to it because it had lost that out of phase bit. So it come back to the real world, and they're actually fused with the deck. They're like bits of body sticking out the deck, legs, this, that, and the other. And it killed a load of servicemen, and it made a lot of other servicemen basically freak out and go mad because of the things they'd seen and the things they'd experienced. And I think there was only a handful that survived. And out of that, there was only a couple that dared write any write-ups about it. You know?
Well, see, when I looked into this, I was a little eyebrows to the ceiling kind of moments going, really? People believe this? You know, I have to say, it sounds all very fantastical.
I have a problem with some of it.
Absolutely fantastical. I just do not think... I mean, where do you go with this? I just don't believe that this happened. I believe that they may have been experimenting with electromagnetic fields because for the very reasons we've stated, you know, but not to this extent. And I mean, the more cases I read, or the more accounts I read, I love a conspiracy theory. The more you look at different accounts of said conspiracy theory, the more outrageous and padded out the conspiracy theory gets. Because there was something called the freeze effect that happened.
That's what I have a problem with. Is that.
Yeah, because apparently the ones that did survive were affected in a very specific way. They would sort of go into like a zone area where they would just go blank and not be able to like function. And the only way they would be able to counteract it is if another crew member who was on the ship performed a laying on of hands, which, well, conjures up all sorts, doesn't it?
Hey, what's going on here?
Yeah, carry on.
Apparently you're ringing me on Skype again.
No, that's somebody else.
Oh, okay. But yeah, anyway, I just have a whole problem with that. Like people disappearing when they're eating their dinner, going out of phase, and then blanking and this, that, and the other. I just have a whole big issue with all that.
Absolutely ridiculous is where I'm going with this.
Oh, what the reports of it?
Absolutely ridiculous. But like I said, this is the problem with any conspiracy theory. People take facts, minute facts, try and join the dots, make up a whole story about it, which may not even be true, and make up a fantastical story. I mean, this whole situation with this Philadelphia experiment, although it's very, very amazing if you think about the concepts that are in it, it just is screaming awfulness. The whole thing is awfulness. And
it made for a good film.
Well, it makes for a good film, I suppose. And it makes for a good imagination as well. I mean,
do you mean like the imagination of Alfred Bielek?
Yeah, Alfred Bielek or whatever, however you say his name. He was reputed to be the lone survivor. Now, this is the thing, right? His memories were buried until just happened to see the movie that was out in 1988, bearing in mind this happened in 1943, and then all of a sudden he remembered that he wasn't actually this Alfred geezer. He was born as Ed Cameron. I mean, there you go. That's another thing I've got a problem with, because basically I don't believe it. I call smells like nonsense, Absolutely. Exactly. And this is the problem with conspiracy theories, not just from age-old conspiracy theories, but conspiracy theories that happen in this day and age. Even now, people will join dots together and not actually check out facts and make fantastical stories. But, like you say, it makes for a good story.
Exactly.
It makes for a great film.
Well, as Richard in the chat room said, story was made famous by Charles Berlitz in a book he wrote in the 1970s. Before then, nobody had ever heard of it.
No, exactly. So it's one of those situations, but everybody, you go on the internet, mate, you can find so much about the conspiracy theory of the Philadelphia experiment, and it is absolutely, like I said, the more accounts I read, the more fantastical it got, the more outrageous the claims regarding the experiment were. And they're probably, your favourite saying is there's no smoke without fire. So
yeah, but I think in this case...
Well, I think
also
in
the
this
USS
case,
Eldridge...
there probably was experiments to try and, repel, magnetic mines and stuff like that because of the situation they were in the World War. But whether or not it managed to transport a ship, make it invisible, the crew were fused to the ship, and all the other horror stories that are linked to this, I seriously doubt it.
I do remember there was a thing in the Second World War, and that was actually to do with the RAF trying to hide radar stations, and they were experimenting with electrical output to see if it would mask the signature of their radar station. I remember that was going on. But it wasn't anything like this. So I'm wondering if they took the story of that and then just bastardised it into that.
I mean, Richard again has said the USS Eldridge was still in service up to the 1970s in the Turkish Navy. But, and if it had been subject to this kind of experiment, that isn't going to happen, is it? Do you know what I mean? And this is what I mean about facts being twisted along the way. And you need to do your research. But we did say right at the beginning of the show, this show is going to be filled with loads of crazy theories and lots of crazies. And on that note, we're going to take a quick break and come back with even more. I mean, you think that was crazy? You wait till some of the other things we've got about time travel. Join us after this short break.
You're listening to Parasearch UK Radio. News, views and reviews from the world of the paranormal from across the UK and beyond. Find us on Facebook, Twitter and the World Wide Web. Parasearch UK Radio.
Welcome back to the Dark Mirror Show. We are talking time travel, and we are bringing you some of the craziest and weirdest stories regarding time travel that we could find. We've already looked a little bit about the science, and it was a little bit. Then we looked at the Philadelphia experiment and decided that that was complete bunkum. And, well, this one, really, guys, this is your Friday night frivolousness, I think we can honestly say. Because allegedly, Barack Obama went to Mars. He went to Mars. Did you know that?
Apparently, Barack Obama went to Mars, yes. Yes. Seattle attorney Andrew Basiaggio says that when he was a child, he and William Stillings were chrononauts in a secret United States government time travel program called Project Pegasus. Bear in mind, he said they were kids, all right? The purpose of the program was threefold: to protect Earth from threats from space, to establish territorial sovereignty over Mars, and to acclimate Martian humanoids and animals to our presence. I can actually say I've seen a program on this, and I've seen the guy doing an interview, and he says, and I quote, that they were basically, as kids, taken up to Mars, trained for all these years. There's not just humans on Mars. There's humans, there's reptilians, and there's some form of tall greys as well. And they all live together. They all form some sort of alliance. And then basically some big aliens came down and had a space battle. And then every 20 years, get taken back, but because of the time travel theory, they can go back in time, put them back as when they were kids, and they wipe their memory.
Oh, okay. So how did they get to Mars?
With this secret special spaceships we've got.
See, we told you we're bringing the crazies out tonight.
When you see him, he actually comes across as a very lucid and clever chap. But it's just when you put it all together, you can just look at him and think, do you really think I'm made out of wine gums? You know?
Yeah, I love the fact that Barack Obama has been to Mars. I just love
the best part. Yeah, the best part of Basiaggio and Stillings' claim, however, is that one of the fellow time travelers was none other than a 19-year-old Barack Obama, who went by the name Barry Suetero. In 1980, the three men and 7 other youths from their Mars training class at California's College of Siskiyous. Apparently, with an institution that
I know, but again, they've taken real things and built a story around it. I mean, that's apparently, allegedly, a real institution, and that's where the top secret teleportation jump room, which is modelled on technical papers found in Nikola Tesla's apartment. I mean, funnily enough, the White House has officially denied that Obama ever went to Mars. I love that they felt they had to clarify that President Obama never, ever went to... Can we call him president still? I don't know. Anyway, Barack Obama ever went to Mars. You've got to love it. You have got to love it.
That's the sort of nonsense I could see Trump coming out with.
Yeah, probably. Maybe he was
really is just to ridicule the man, you know?
But, see, the worrying thing is, if they said it about Trump, I'd more likely believe it.
Well, maybe his hairpiece went to Mars. I can imagine that.
Anyway, we're not going to diss any politician. We're going to have faith in humanity, is what we're going to do on that one.
We'd like to talk about John Titor.
Let's have a look at John Titor. Let's call him Titor, please.
John Titor.
Good old John Titor. He was a man who claimed to be from the year 2036. And he had a set of predictions. Some were very vague and some were very specific, allegedly. And he claimed that the future America would be very different from the current one. What's worrying about this is 2036 is not actually that far away.
Yeah, and according to him, basically, the US was devastated and divided into, was it 5 parts?
Yeah, 5 smaller regions.
Smaller regions because of a nuclear war caused by a mad president. Anyway, he gave some pretty detailed information about what happened and this, that, and the other, and how the war started, and about which powers went to war and everything. And he gave some pretty detailed information about his time machine. Yet nobody has tried to make their own. And whilst
you mean to say that we haven't got the plans for said time machine, that we can try and have a go at it?
Well, apparently there are the plans, but nobody's made it.
Which would kind of think that if there were plans... Oh, no. See, we can make our own conspiracy theory on this one. Because if they've got the plans, they must be locked up in Area 51, where they're using alien technology along with these plans to build said time machine.
Yeah, but Captain Obama is piloting it anyway.
Of course. See, we're building our own conspiracy theory right here, right now.
You heard it, folks. You heard it first here.
Yeah, you did. I'm going to put this out on the internet. I'm going to write a really detailed thing, and I'm going to put lots of big words in there, and I'm going to sound really scientific and really clever, and I'm going to that's what I'm going to do, and then I bet millions of people believe it.
Do you know what? It'd be worth it just for a laugh, see if people are daft enough to believe it.
But people are. That's the worrying thing. People do believe conspiracy theories.
What was I going to say? Right. One of the things that is quite worrying is tied to a hint that the world was going to be beset by conflicts, culminating in a series of Russian nuclear strikes, which was supposed to have happened 2 years ago, but would kill almost 3 billion people. And to be absolutely honest, the way a certain president at the moment is being a bit of a plum and winding up the Chinese and the Russians.
Don't believe everything you read in the media is all I'm going to say on that one. Now, I love this. He didn't have a DeLorean. He had a 1987 Chevy Suburban.
Sorry. I've got a Renault Kadjar. Do you reckon he'd let me use his flux capacitor?
Well, I think you could actually put your laptop in there. Yeah. Tap it rapidly with a date or something, and then drive really fast at a wall, and you'll be transported to the date and the time that you've put in there. I reckon that would work, you know.
You've been watching Jean-Claude Van Damme again, Time Cop.
Funnily enough, this guy's posts abruptly ceased in 2001, but, like I said, strangely enough, they call it the T-Tour Mania. I love this. The T-Tour Mania continued. And in 2003...
That's like Frankie Howard.
This is the bit that gets me, right? A bound edition of T-Tour's 151 message board posts, which was how we used to do it before Messenger. Oh, Marley's off and running. He was released under the title of John T-Tour, A Time Traveller's Tale. Now, this is no longer in print, right? Get this, right? But you can still buy a new copy. So start saving, Mark, for an eye-popping, get this one, $1,775.
Yeah, I'll have too.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go out and buy this book. Or, no, actually, I might go for the used copy, which is only $150.
That sounds a bit more better. You know, that sounds a bit more like it. Reading material, you could put in, say, The Outhouse.
Why would you spend that kind of money on a book that is full of...
Well, the thing is, it's in the name, Titomania. It sounds like a Frankie Howard thing. You know? Oh, titty ye not! You know?
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Anyway, I love the fact, though, that people take the concept, and to take it back to a slightly more serious note, people have taken this concept and they're actually trying to work out to see if time travel is possible in the future, not now, but in the future, then there may well be evidence around us now in this day and age on the internet itself. Because a guy called Robert Nemiroff. I'm really bad at names. And Teresa Wilson, now they work from the Michigan Technological University Physics Department. And what they've actually been trying to do is trawling the web for references to information that posted before it should be possible to post, in the hopes of finding said evidence.
Yeah, basically saying like Trump's inauguration, they were looking for people talking 3 years ago of Trump being president.
Yeah, except that sort of falls down a little bit, because didn't the Simpsons...
Yeah, the Simpsons 8 years ago, I think it was, said Trump was going to be president.
So conspiracy theory number 2, made up right here on the Dark Mirror Show. Could we not then say that the writer of The Simpsons was actually a time traveller who popped forward in future to get his ideas for The Simpsons show, popped back and wrote the show?
Matt Groening. Well, as Richard says in the room, you can put it all on creepypasta. And Simpsons, if I remember rightly, there's been 17 things over the years that they've said in there or had in their episodes, and it's all happened.
So maybe Matt Groening is a time traveller. You heard it here first on the Dark Mirror Show, guys.
Dun, dun, dun.
Conspiracy number 2. Oh, that might already be a conspiracy, to be fair. That one might already be a conspiracy out there.
Time traveller. Apparently my missus isn't a time traveller. What about you?
No, I'm definitely not a time traveller. I'd change so much stuff if I was a time traveller. Just for the hell of it.
I'd give myself hair.
Oh, but at least people are actually trying to use modern technology, I suppose, and you know, work out. Having said that, I doubt very much if you're going to find that information on the internet. You're more likely to, you know, find a lot of coincidences. I think is the expression, coincidences.
Well, there's the theory. There was a book written that's supposedly a true story, but the anonymous, the guy who used the ghostwriter, and the anonymous writer claims that people from the US government went back in time and took out President Kennedy to avoid a third world war with Cuba and Russia.
Well, that's one I haven't heard before.
Yeah. There was a book written about it.
Well, if there's a book, it must be true.
God, yeah. Didn't you know? I mean, Star Wars is true. Ronald Reagan did that.
Oh, my God. Oh, my goodness.
Whenever I talk about Ronald Reagan, all I can remember is spitting image and search for the president's brain, which, to be honest, is more fitting now. Giggly.
Funnily enough. Anyway, on social media, we've been talking about the internet a little bit. Now, we've all seen the various photographs that keep popping up with alleged mobile phones or clothing that didn't fit the era. Now, I went away and I had quite a little look at some of these images, didn't I? Like the Charlie, you mentioned it earlier in the show. There's a really famous one of a Charlie Chaplin film called The Circus. And when the film was uploaded to YouTube, everybody started freaking out about it, saying, how could she have, she's holding a mobile phone up to her ear, but could she just be fiddling with her hair? Possibly.
She has actually got something in her hand, something square, but I'm wondering whether it was a mirror or compact or something.
I don't know, but I just, is it really... That's just one example. There's loads and loads of examples of these out on the internet. I mean, one guy is wearing sunglasses and they're saying that the wraparound sunglasses weren't made back in the day.
It was the clothes as well. I know the one you mean. Yeah, he's got like, what do you call it? He's got like hipster clothes on in a 1940s photo. And yeah, they were wraparound shades.
I know.
It does look out of place, but who knows?
I don't know. We don't know. But I doubt very, very much that time travel is actually an explanation for that. I think they're interesting. It's one of those interesting ones, isn't it?
What about Nicolas Cage?
Oh, I love them photos.
You've seen those pictures?
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, they are spot on. I mean, I don't think
they're uncanny. However,
yeah, they are uncannily accurate, but I don't.
However, they are all actors. They're all actors.
Very alike.
And they get made up into various costumes, and they, you know, what with the event of, you know, different characters they take on, and then, you know, maybe the photographs that are photoshopped by any remote possible chance. It just, you know, because some of them are really uncanny.
Well, one of them was a soldier from the early 19th century, so they didn't have Photoshop.
But it's easy to Photoshop it, or get, you know, the actors dressed up for a pilot for a film that never actually got made, and that's part of the, you know, promo that never got used. I mean, Nicolas Cage, I love this. He even went onto the Late Show, the David Letterman Late Show,
right,
and said, "No, I am not a time traveller, and I'm not an immortal vampire." I love the fact that he put immortal vampire in there.
Yeah, I mean, he is a nut job anyway, but, you know, hey.
I know he is a little bit of a nut job, but I love Nicolas Cage. But any of the actors that you see in those, I just do not believe. I mean, there's ones of Keanu Reeves, there's ones of John Travolta, there's ones of Alec Baldwin. I mean, goodness me.
Keanu Reeves, there is a portrait of him from 1570, isn't there?
Ooh.
Well, he's supposed to be in 1570. And then again in 1875, John Travolta in the 1860s, and as you say, Alec Baldwin, who is apparently a recently deceased former Elks Lodge president and a member of the Norwegian government.
Well, it must be true then.
Yes. And also, one thing I've just reading my notes here, and it's not on here. One thing I meant to say to you, when I was doing the research and sent it all off to you and everything, did you see about the hieroglyphs where they say there's a laptop in it?
Yes. However,
yeah.
I also think that maybe back in the day they would write in some form of sand or something. I don't know how they used to do it, to be fair, but it would be on a tray, and maybe there was a cover to cover the tray to seal the writing in the tray. So I don't think it's a laptop. I think it's probably how they used to just, I don't know, write stuff down, and then maybe that then got took away and put on papyrus, so they copied it. You know.
I was about to say, you've just taken my whole thing out of my head there.
Oh, sorry.
I reckon, because, you know, that back then they had scribes who were incredibly well-paid people, and they were the only ones who could read and write properly. Well, why was it not a small, flat wooden case? Because it looks about the size of a sheet of paper or sheet of papyrus, and they kept the papyrus notes in there. They wrote everything in papyrus notes. It may have just been a case open.
Exactly. That's more likely than a laptop.
What about the watch?
Now, this was interesting. Little interesting. Yes. Now, in December of 2008, the Chinese archaeologists discovered a giant tomb that was believed to have been undisturbed. I love that. They believed it to be. Didn't say it was undisturbed. They just said they believed it to be. Right, now, this is a 400-year-old coffin of Si Qing in the Shaanxi County, apparently.
Ching.
Whoever. Anyway, what they found was a centuries-old bag of bones in soil around the outside of the tomb and a small piece of gold and metal. Now, this was allegedly shaped like a watch, with the time frozen at 6 minutes past 10, with the word Swiss engraved on the back. But this watch couldn't have been more than 100 years old, so how did it end up embedded in the soil of an ancient, undisturbed tomb? Right, now, there's two things on this. First of all, it wasn't inside the tomb. So even if the tomb was undisturbed, it has no bearing on the fact that this bag it wasn't found inside the tomb. It was found outside the tomb. Right? So it's actually got nothing to do with the tomb. It's just happened to be location.
So a Swiss watch that's the size of my little fingernail just happened to be outside a Chinese tomb.
Yeah.
That's 100 years old.
Just because it's outside, just because it's there in the location doesn't mean it's the same age as the tomb itself. That's a huge assumptive leap.
Say that again.
Assumptive leap. I'm making words up today. I will warn you guys. I've been making words up all day today.
But I mean, who's to say that Sigmund Freud's pygmy friend from Switzerland did not go and look at the the Chinese scripture. Oh, bugger! Where's my watch?
Well, it's actually a ring. It's the size of a ring, isn't it? It's not actually a watch. It actually looks like a ring.
I don't think it's even big enough to be a ring, is it?
Well, that's what it looked like to me.
It was dinky. It looked. Do you know what it reminded me of? A charm off a bracelet.
Well, yes, it's that sort of thing. Now, all right, okay, so it was in a bag of bones in the soil, but who's to say, right, that said guy
cross-contamination from one of the archaeologists possibly.
Didn't go along, was digging around the area, didn't find the tomb that that these other guys had found, but had found some bones, picked them up, put them in. As he was putting them in his ring or his whatever size it is, his thing that was like a little watch or a charm bracelet or whatever, fell inside the bag. And then he thought, they're only bones, dumped the bag, just happened to be outside said tomb. I think that's more likely than it's a time-travelling watch thing.
What is that the technical term? Watch thing?
Yeah, we're going with watch thing. I mean, this conspiracy theory, this particular little theory, media. You have got to love the media. This is why I say you don't ever trust anything you read in the media. Because when the story broke, they linked it to quarks and all sorts. Quarks.
Yes. Star Trek.
Now, see, I went, quarks? What's a quark? So I actually looked up what a quark is. And a quark are any number of subatomical particles carrying a fractional electrical charge postulated as building blocks of the hadrons. I don't know what a hadron is, though. Quarks have not been directly observed, but theoretical predictions based on their existence have been confirmed experimentally. What that has got to actually do, I'm really close to swearing, actually, on this, because what the heck that has got to do with anything is beyond me, but it sounds good when you're shoving it in a conspiracy theory.
Well, to be absolutely honest, one of the most ridiculous ones I found was the Christ's personal photographer.
That's
ridiculous.
Go on, tell me about that.
Okay, Father Pellegrino Ernetti was a Benedictine monk, and to be fair, he was a respected authority on archaic music. What that's got to do with Christ's photographer, I don't know, but he claims to have co-invented as part of a team that included the Nobel Prize-winning physicist Enrico Fermi and German rocket scientist Werner von Braun the chronovisor, a device that looked like a television. I've actually heard of this, but could tune into events from the past. According to Ernetti, he'd observed the Last Supper and Christ's crucifixion, as well as Napoleon and Cicero. The team later voluntarily dismantled the device because in the wrong hands it could create the most fearsome dictatorship the world has ever seen. I wonder if Trump got hold of that. Anyway, it had been inspired, he said, by Nostradamus, who had personally related to him the device's possibilities. When pressed for evidence, Ernetti produced a picture of Christ on the cross, reputedly photographed through the chronovisor. After the photo's resemblance to a carving by Cula Valera was noticed, however, Ernetti was forced to admit the photo was a fake. Nevertheless, Ernetti insisted the chronovisor was real.
I know. I mean, that in itself says it all, doesn't it?
Pretty much.
That in itself says it all. But we are going to finish. We have got 6 minutes left of said show. And I mean, you think this has been crazy so far. Trust me, it gets weirder and crazier. In August 30th, 2006, a 36-year-old man, I'm not even going to attempt his name, came home to find water pooling on his kitchen floor. And what he did was he went to do a bit of plumbing, crawled through the cabinet, carried on crawling until he came out the other side of said cabinet. This is Narnia. This just screams Narnia. He came through the other end of the tunnel. He then met himself, older self, realised he was in the future, as you do, and not necessarily... He sat down, he had a cup of tea with himself, you know, and apparently the future guy knew things that only he could know, weirdly. And then they had a little cup of tea, and then they posed for a selfie. You gotta love a selfie. And then he crawled back through said tunnel back to where he came from.
Yeah.
It's Narnia. He had a moment. I bet he banged his head when he was doing his plumbing, had an hallucination, and then came round, and that was that.
Yeah.
You know what my favourite one was, though? I can't believe you found this. We're actually going to go on to... I love this. You go on, say your word. Go on. I'll give you a little go at it.
Aliens!
Tell me about Space Barbie. I actually cried with laughter on this one.
She's ridiculous. I've seen her on the TV, and bizarre isn't the word. She thinks she's obsessed with Barbie. She wants to look like Barbie. She's had ribs taken out. She's had her eyes augmented, her waist augmented, blah, 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 blah. She's got a website, and she's bat poo crazy. I mean, I thought some of these theories were bat poo crazy, but I mean, I'm talking more crazy than one of my cats playing fetch with me earlier on today. Right. Her name is Valeria Let me put this right. She's Russian, definitely Russian. Likianova. Valeria Likianova. And she insists that she's really an alien time traveller come to Earth to save the world from superficiality.
Oh my goodness, how ironic. The
Ukrainian-born Lukianova, who says her spiritual name is Amatu.
Which sounds very like... Sorry. That sounds very like amateur.
Or immature.
Now, she shot to internet fame in 2012 with her 20-minute video, Space Barbie. And now she says she was here to move us from the role of the role of human consumer to the role of human demigod. And she says she started seeing spirits from other dimensions when she was 12 or 13. She couldn't decide which age she was. And that she also developed the ability to travel outside of her body to other planets and universes. And she communicates with these other worldly beings, not verbally, but in the language of light. And she's already published a book. Again, another book you can go and buy. I'm not even going to share the link for you because really, if you're going to waste your money, send it to me because I will waste it much better for you. About these astral trips. Now, her real goal isn't actually to say that she's, this time-travelling, space-bodied woman that's going to save us from human consumption. She actually wants to be a pop star. Oh, bless her.
You haven't heard the best of it. I mean, when you see her, you can see exactly who her fan base are. Her fan base are going to be teenage boys. She's tiny, huge baps, huge eyes. She looks like a manga cartoon, and she tries to say that she doesn't eat food because she's an alien, and she lives off air and water, and that's it. That was one thing I couldn't put in the research, but I've seen a program about her, and she insists she lives on air and water. And when you look at her, all her friends are augmented and look like Barbies and Ken dolls. Yes, exactly. And you just look at her and you think, lights are on, nobody's home.
Right, I think we've come to the conclusion that you cannot trust a conspiracy theory. Secondly, there are people that think, some of these conspiracy theories are absolutely a little bit bonkers. Love you all dearly. I love a conspiracy theory. I am not going to lie. I do love a conspiracy theory. However, I think we have come to the conclusion tonight that time travel in all shapes and forms is really not a thing at this time, and it may be being scientifically looked at. However, there is no evidence or proof that they have conquered said time travel, and basically we've had a lot of fun looking into this episode, haven't we?
Yeah, exactly. And as Richard's in the chat room, he can't understand when somebody posts an alleged photo of a ghost, no one believes it. But when somebody posts a photo of an alleged time traveller, everybody goes mad.
And that is
He's
where
right.
we're going to leave it.
Yeah.
No,
What's next week's show about then?
we're talking about types of hauntings next week, which actually is a little bit better. It's a little bit of a nicer subject, not a crazies. It's different types of entities and names for them, and what they are supposed to be, because there are lots of different types of
mother-in-laws.
Well, I suppose we can find
They have broomsticks.
Nah, don't diss the witch.
No, I'm not dissing the witch. I'm just saying some mothers-in-laws have broomsticks. And I'm leaving it there.
And on that note, thank you so much for listening. You can catch up with all of our episodes on Podbean, Mixcloud, SoundCloud, YouTube, Tumblr. Please listen back to some of the episodes.
Everything.
We've had some amazing guests on, and they are well worth a listen. Oh, and YouTube. Don't forget YouTube. They are well worth a listen. Now, next week we have a full week packed full of shows again for you. So join our Facebook group page or our Facebook like page, which is Parasearch UK Radio, to find out which shows and what the topics are all next week. And on that note, I'm going to say thank you so much for joining us. I am Kerry Greenaway. I am saying good night. Mark, over to you.
And it's good night from me, and it's good night from her. I'm Mark Manley. She's been Kerry Greenaway. Thank you for listening. Thank you for joining us. I'd like to thank my mother, my father,
Oh my God,
family,
and on that note, we are jingling it out.
the cat.
You're listening to Parasearch UK Radio. News, views and reviews from the world of the paranormal from across the UK and beyond. Find us on Facebook, Twitter and the World Wide Web. Parasearch UK Radio.